Pauline Lawrence was a devoted mother of three, quietly rebuilding her life after a painful divorce. She wasn't rich, she wasn't famous, just a kind woman with a talent for sewing and a heart rooted in family. But in the summer of 1993, everything changed. Without a word, she vanished from her home in Warrawong, New South Wales, and was never seen again. For decades, her case was a haunting mystery. No witnesses, no body, and no real answers. Her family was left in the dark, clinging to hope in a silence that lasted more than 30 years. But now, decades later, new evidence has surfaced, and someone has finally been arrested. Could justice finally be within reach? This is the heartbreaking story of Pauline Lawrence, a woman forgotten by time, until now. Stay with us as we uncover what really happened, and why her case may finally be cracking open. If you're drawn to true crime stories that matter, stories that deserve justice, subscribe now and join us as we bring forgotten voices back into the light. Pauline Sauer, later known by her married name Pauline Lawrence, was born in 1944. By 1993, she was 49 years old and living in Warrawong, a suburb in the Wollongong region of New South Wales, Australia. A mother of three, Pauline was devoted to her children and led a quiet, modest life rooted in family. She had a creative side that found expression through sewing, often altering clothes for herself and her children. Her attention to detail and care showed through in these everyday acts, reflecting a nurturing and capable personality. In the early 1990s, Pauline faced a significant life change. She was going through a divorce, a process that was emotionally taxing but eventually resulted in a financial settlement. Despite the upheaval, she began to rebuild. Her days were spent focusing on family and maintaining stability as she adjusted to life after the separation. There were no signs that anything unusual or dangerous was looming. Pauline had started to turn a difficult chapter into a fresh beginning. But just as she seemed to be finding her footing again, something happened that would stop her journey entirely. The life she was quietly rebuilding would come to a sudden and unexplained end, leaving behind more questions than answers. In the summer of 1993, shortly after spending Christmas with her family, Pauline Lawrence vanished. At the time, she was living in Warrawong, a suburb in the Wollongong region of New South Wales. Her family, accustomed to regular contact, grew concerned when they were unable to reach her. The sudden silence was deeply out of character. As hours turned into days without any communication, concern turned into alarm. Her loved ones reported her missing, and police responded by opening an official investigation. Officers began by interviewing family members and close acquaintances. They searched local areas and followed up on tips as they were received. But even with swift action, investigators found themselves working without solid leads. There were no witnesses who had seen Pauline leave or any signs indicating where she might have gone. Despite thorough initial efforts, the case quickly stalled. There was no physical evidence pointing to a direction or suspect. The lack of information complicated every aspect of the investigation. Her disappearance left both police and family searching for answers in the dark. Weeks passed, then months. Still, no trace of Pauline emerged. For her family, the uncertainty was devastating. With no explanation and no resolution, they were left suspended in fear and confusion, hoping each day might bring a breakthrough that never came. After Pauline Lawrence's disappearance in 1993, police continued to review her case. Though efforts were made to trace her steps and identify new leads, progress remained slow. With no physical evidence, no confirmed sightings, and no witnesses, the investigation lost momentum over time. The absence of answers stretched into months, then years, gradually pushing the case into cold territory. Despite periodic reassessments, no new information emerged to shift the direction of the inquiry. The disappearance lingered in police files, revisited occasionally but without significant breakthroughs. Family members continued to live in a state of unresolved grief, holding on to the hope that one day they might learn the truth about what had happened to Pauline. In 2008, 15 years after her disappearance, authorities reached a somber but unofficial conclusion. Relying on an unverified sighting that had been reported in the early days of the investigation, police determined that Pauline had most likely died around the time she went missing. This determination, however, came without forensic evidence or a body to confirm the theory. No cause of death could be established, and no suspects were publicly identified. The announcement carried weight but lacked certainty. For Pauline's family, the conclusion was far from closure. It brought no answers to their questions, no resolution to their pain. The idea that her death was assumed rather than proven left them with a lingering sense of abandonment. The case had not reached an end, it had simply grown quiet. Without new leads or evidence, the investigation slowed to a standstill. The declaration of presumed death served more as an administrative step than a conclusion grounded in fact. What remained was silence, uncertainty, and a lasting impact on a family that had already endured 15 years of unanswered questions and unresolved loss. In 2022, nearly 30 years after Pauline Lawrence disappeared, the New South Wales Police announced the reopening of her case. The renewed investigation was formally named Strike Force Anthea. With advances in forensic science and a fresh look at the original case files, authorities sought to uncover new leads that may have been overlooked or inaccessible in the early 1990s. The creation of Strike Force Anthea signaled a determined shift in focus. Investigators began by reviewing the full scope of evidence collected during the original inquiry. This included reevaluating witness statements, revisiting possible timelines, and applying updated forensic methodologies to preserved materials. The renewed effort also expanded physical search areas beyond the initial locations, with a clear emphasis on regions that may not have been thoroughly examined at the time of Pauline's disappearance. These new searches centered on bushland areas in the vicinity of Wollongong. It was during these operations that investigators uncovered items of clothing. While not definitively linked to Pauline, the discovery marked the first potential physical evidence found since 1993. The clothing was sent for forensic testing, as authorities worked to establish whether the items belonged to Pauline and whether they held any clues to her fate. For Pauline's family, the development brought a cautious sense of hope. After decades of silence, the possibility of meaningful progress offered a renewed belief that answers could still be found. For investigators, the discovery of the clothing items represented a tangible direction in a case long defined by its absence of evidence. This stage of the investigation focused entirely on gathering facts through careful examination and fieldwork. It was a methodical return to the unanswered questions that had haunted the case for years. Though the search for conclusive evidence continued, the launch of Strike Force Anthea marked a significant turning point in a case that had been stagnant for far too long. On May 29, 2025, a significant development emerged in the decades-old disappearance of Pauline Lawrence. Police arrested 64-year-old Leon Bune at an apartment located in Gwynville, New South Wales. The arrest marked a breakthrough in a case that had remained unresolved for more than 30 years. Authorities revealed that new information had recently come to light regarding events that unfolded in mid-1994, months after Pauline was last seen. At that time, it was reported that Pauline had come into some money as a result of a financial settlement related to her divorce. This financial gain is now believed to have played a central role in a serious dispute, one that police allege ultimately led to her disappearance. Based on the findings of the current investigation, officers believe that Pauline was abducted from her residence on Gray Street in the suburb of Winona. The details surrounding her disappearance remained elusive for decades, but investigators now suspect that her life ended shortly after, in bushland located near the suburb of Fig Tree. Although an extensive search of the surrounding area has been conducted, Pauline's remains have not yet been located. Clothing items previously discovered in nearby bushland continue to undergo forensic testing to determine whether they can be linked directly to Pauline. These items represent the most tangible evidence found in the case since it was reopened in 2022 under Strike Force Anthea. Investigators have not confirmed whether the clothing definitively belongs to Pauline, but its discovery is considered highly relevant to the investigation. Leon Bune has been charged with 2 serious offenses: accessory after the fact and concealing a serious indictable offense. On May 30th, the day following his arrest, Bune appeared before the Wollongong local court. The magistrate denied him bail after hearing police concerns that he could interfere with witnesses if released. The case has been scheduled to return to court for mention on July 30th. This arrest represents a pivotal moment in the investigation. While significant questions remain unanswered, particularly regarding the location of Pauline's body, authorities continue to pursue leads in an effort to bring closure to her family. For the first time in decades, there is movement toward legal accountability. On May 30th, 2025, one day after his arrest, Leon Bune appeared before the Wollongong local court. Facing 2 charges, accessory after the fact and concealing a serious indictable offense, Bune stood as the first individual formally accused in connection with Pauline Lawrence's disappearance. During the hearing, police submitted a formal objection to bail, citing concerns that Bune may attempt to interfere with witnesses if released. The magistrate accepted their argument and denied bail. The case was scheduled to return to court for mention on July 30th. This court appearance marked the beginning of a new phase in the investigation, one transitioning from inquiry to judicial process. For authorities, it was a critical step forward after decades of stalled progress. Although the charges did not include murder, the arrest and pending legal proceedings signaled an active pursuit of accountability. Law enforcement officials acknowledged the emotional weight of the case, particularly the continued absence of Pauline's remains. A police spokesperson stated, "We recognize that the family is still without a body. This investigation remains ongoing, and we are committed to following every lead." Public attention intensified as news of the arrest spread. After more than 3 decades of unanswered questions, the court proceedings reignited long-standing interest in the case. For Pauline's family, the developments were deeply personal. Her son, Jason Lawrence, spoke to the media following the hearing. "It's been a long time, 30 years without answers. This arrest has brought us some sense of validation. It doesn't bring Mom back, but it's a step toward justice," he said. Jason also thanked detectives who had worked on Strike Force Anthea. "We're grateful to the investigators who never gave up. Their dedication has given us hope that we'll finally know the truth." While the legal process was still in its early stages, the reaction from Pauline's loved ones reflected cautious optimism. After decades of silence, the courtroom became a place where long-dormant questions might finally begin to receive answers. As of now, the investigation into the disappearance and suspected death of Pauline Lawrence remains open and active. While the May 2025 arrest of Leon Bune marked a significant advancement, many aspects of the case are still unresolved. One of the most pressing is the continued absence of Pauline's remains. Despite targeted searches and the use of modern investigative techniques, her body has not been located. The items of clothing discovered during previous bushland searches are currently undergoing forensic analysis. Authorities have not yet confirmed whether the garments belong to Pauline. These examinations are critical, as any forensic link could further solidify the police's timeline and theory regarding her disappearance. Until then, investigators remain cautious, treating each piece of evidence with care and precision. Police have emphasized that the case is far from over. Their work continues through Strike Force Anthea, with a clear goal: to uncover the full truth behind what happened in 1993 and the events that followed. Detectives remain committed to following new leads, re-interviewing witnesses, and reanalyzing earlier information with fresh eyes. For Pauline's family, the search for closure continues. The arrest brought a sense of progress, but without definitive answers or the recovery of her body, the emotional toll remains heavy. Her son, Jason, has expressed hope that ongoing efforts will eventually lead to justice and peace for his mother. Authorities continue to encourage members of the public to come forward with any information, no matter how minor it may seem. As the case remains active, even the smallest detail could make a difference. More than 30 years after Pauline's disappearance, the pursuit of answers persists. The search for truth continues, not only for justice but for a sense of resolution that has eluded her loved ones for far too long. If you want to follow the latest updates on Pauline Lawrence's case and others like it, subscribe now and stay informed as the search for justice continues. What was the name of the police force that reopened Pauline Lawrence's case in 2022? If you know the answer, tell in the comment.